Hey, most people are stuck because they only have one way to make money. They don't have multiple ways because I taught economics in high school. And when I taught economics in high school, I know for a fact that there was only one chapter that talked about markets. It was chapter number 13. And that chapter only had three sections in it and only two subsections. And that's just not enough information. Out of 21 chapters, there was only one chapter, and a small portion of that dealt with markets, and it didn't even tell you how to practically get involved. And so most people have a problem, and that problem is that they're one interruption away from financial failure, one tire going out, one engine, one slipped rod, one slip and fall at work, and they can't go to work. And I mean, and that is bad. In an economy like this, it should not be that way. I want to introduce you to someone who I have a whole lot of respect for, someone who I've grown to love, and someone who we've become friends. And he started off as just a student in our school. And his name is Aaron. Aaron, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and where you're from?
Well, it's a pleasure. My name is Aaron Pike. I'm from Melrose, Florida, a little tiny town just east of the city of Gainesville.
Hmm.
Um, I work as a licensed massage therapist, specifically in the sports and orthopedic realm.
Hmm.
I work with the primarily University of Florida athletes during the fall and winter months, and in the summer, I go up to the island of Nantucket,
Hmm.
where I have a thriving private practice. Uh, my work, that's my working life in a nutshell. Also, I work part-time as a professional musician playing primarily classical guitar.
Hmm. That's cool. That's cool. So let me ask you this. Before trading, and the reason we're interviewing you, we interview you because you're making money. And not because you're a good guy and because I like you, but you are making money. You are social proof that a person does not have to have a finance degree. A person does not have to have an economics degree, does not have to have a political science degree, doesn't have to understand all the geopolitical activity that bleeds over into our economy and our world economy. You can just be a regular person and do this. So before trading, so what did your income actually depend on before trading?
Completely on massage therapy and how
So,
many clients I
mhm,
get on the table. Um,
wow. So
Nothing
let
more,
me ask you
nothing.
this. Yeah. So let me ask you this. If something would have gone wrong in your life back then with that, how exposed financially would you have been? Everybody decides they don't want a massage. The Florida Gators decide they don't want it. You know what I'm saying? So talk to me about how exposed did you feel before trading?
The reality of it is, as much as I would like to think not, is that getting massage therapy is considered, and the terminology most people use is a luxury,
Mm,
not a lifestyle choice of a healthcare regimen, a necessity like having a vehicle is to people or having toilet paper. It's seen as a luxury. So there's always been the creeping thought in the back of my head if there's some kind of economic downturn, um, if I get injured, if my hands
mm,
are, if I get arthritis, if I break something, that
wow.
uh, being dependent on this and this alone has the potential for pitfalls.
Hmm.
Um, Everything has always worked out. And I think if you're truly good at what you do, punctual,
Hmm.
um, have a knack for it, the work comes. So, one of the things that I always liked about massage therapy is it's a trade-off between guaranteed consistency, like working for a company or having a business where people need things, and having
Hmm.
the freedom to make my own schedule and be my own boss. And I
Hmm.
value that very much. So I always accepted that um, work has an ebb and flow to it. But as
Hmm.
I've matured in it and have built up a good reputation, for the most part,
Hmm.
everything goes well.
That's good. That's good. Let me ask you this. Did you think that you were capable of something bigger, or were you hoping things would just change? Or did you say, I have to, I feel vulnerable, I feel exposed, with these ideas, and you're an avid hiker too. So, every time you climb mountains and stuff, you have the potential of getting hurt. So did you think you were
I have.
capable of doing something bigger, uh, like trading?
Well, I realized that I was more or less financially illiterate.
Hmm.
However, I was able to buffer that by always being a very frugal person. I've never
Mm,
I've never gone into debt in my adult life
mm,
and been really good about saving and not living beyond my means. However, certain dreams that I had, especially regarding having something like a homestead, having land,
mm,
uh, doing massage therapy in today's economy doesn't quite reach that goal without going into a lot of debt. And that was a standard that I put for myself that I wouldn't do in case there was some kind of uh, medical disaster that set me
mhm.
back financially. I always wanted to have a buffer, and I saw it as a further reaching definition of freedom to not be indebted to anyone. Um,
Yeah.
so I was definitely curious, to say the least, about trading as a means to buttress the income that I already had. And being a frugal person, I approached trading in a similar manner of not
Mhm,
being too cavalier with it. But
mhm,
and that's a, a big pillar of what I learned through you is it really is about um, conservative trading, proper
mhm,
management of the
mhm,
money that you put into it,
mhm,
and and if that notion is really kept in check on this journey, it works phenomenally well.
mhm. So let me ask you this. So, because and I always like to say you're paid for what you get. And this is a school, and it's not priced like a college or anything, but it does cost money. So um, when you were looking at that aspect of it, we had spoken, you realized that, hey, at some point you realize, hey, the guy's not a scammer, the guy's not a con artist. Like he knows what he's talking about. I don't know, did you come into the trade room and witness as a VIP guest before you actually started?
I didn't.
Okay,
Um,
that's
best
good.
friend, one of my
Hmm.
best friends who I trust with
That's good.
all of my heart, encouraged me to do it.
Hmm.
And uh, to a great degree, I did take a leap of faith, but it was
Hmm.
it was well worth it. And there was quite, for me, having no experience at all with the market, admittedly,
Hmm.
there was more of a learning curve and a
Hmm.
lot of introspection that I had to um, process
Hmm.
before I really got into the zone with trading. Um,
Hmm.
and I think everyone in that regard, based on their own kind of foundation, their disposition, their personality, their own
Hmm.
perceivable shortcomings, will have to navigate that on their own. For
Hmm.
me, it definitely had some growing pains with it, but
Hmm.
I persevered and matured in it, and
Hmm.
now there's a there's a clarity to the trading that
Hmm.
primarily came from understanding myself better, how I
Hmm.
approach this. And again, as we've talked about so much, the management, hands
Hmm.
down, is the real key to success,
Hmm. Let me ask you
in
this.
my
So,
opinion.
yeah, yeah. Let me ask you this, because I think that's true in all businesses. If you have a restaurant and you dump buckets of ketchup every day and not put them in those little containers to control, you end up throwing away thousands of dollars worth of ketchup like maintenance, if you have a trucking company, you have to make sure that you keep the equipment, check, so that you won't have these big engine problems. So I think maintenance and management is the key to any business, including this one. Let me ask you this. Um, at any point, did you start creating excuses for yourself? Like, okay, I know it works. I've seen it work. It's working for everybody else. I understand what he's talking about, but for me, maybe this is not for me. Did that ever creep into your mind, some excuses that you were telling yourself?
many times. And in fact, I
Really?
was quite frank with you about it at one point in time when I was going through my veritable dark
Transformation.
night with trading, and but we worked through it together. You were always available for a conversation, guidance,
Mm-hmm.
to really go into the minutia of what was holding me back from being successful with it. And I'm glad that so glad that I kept going with it and
Mm-hmm.
really ironed out all the wrinkles as I was going through my learning curve. Um, and again, this was just personal for me. It probably could be very different for someone else that
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
might not have the same shortcomings that I did with it. But that
Mm-hmm.
being said, the almost comical part of the whole thing is once I got through that, I realized those issues that I had with it and really getting to a higher level of trading were quite simple. Um, Sometimes we make simple things more complicated than they need to be. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So when you got inside, okay, now you've thought about it, you've enrolled, you filled out the application, you're in it. It's like, okay, I paid this money, so I know I got to keep going now. When you got inside, what surprised you the most?
hmm, I I would say nothing really surprised me because it was all so new to me. So maybe the whole thing collectively was a surprise. I didn't
Well,
realize there was a a system in place where there was so much potential to make this kind of money.
mhm.
And what's, I guess you could call it surprising, was that I actually saw now that there was an avenue for me to um, achieve some of the goals that I had that prior to that I felt the economic limitations of what these two hands can do massage therapy wise, that I could break through that wall. And
Mhm,
so surprising, but also more so than that, exciting that I
mhm,
saw a path to that now, um,
mhm,
and one that actually works if the rules are followed,
mhm,
if management is really streamlined for whatever individual is trading, um, and also knowing yourself on a deep enough level, like the shortcomings you have, like the things we talk
mhm.
about, fear of missing out, revenge trading,
Yeah,
not accepting a loss, not
yeah,
following your management program, all of those
yeah,
things in whatever way they may come for someone. And once I sussed out all of that with myself, it was like incredibly easy.
yeah, yeah,
And the
yeah.
motions, getting the emotions out of the equation and just following the rules. It's like I
Hmm.
said, it should be so simple. Um, but I'm glad I went through the process and ran that gauntlet.
Yeah, yeah. That was very, very impressive of how methodical and strategic you were with your pace to prosperity is what I call it. Like you didn't rush that pace. It was just beautiful. And I've always commended you with this is that, and I know as a person who uh, has achieved a few things that if you are going to be successful at a level like this, then you're going to have to not make excuses for yourself and not try to place the blame on someone else. Uh, and you never blame the system, you never blame the teaching, you never blamed the process. You was like, "Hey, I know it's me. Let me fix me," and that was just beautiful to see. So was this harder than you expected, or was it more structured than you expected?
I think it was harder than I expected in that more so than I ever would have imagined. It prompted me to take a good hard look in the mirror
Mm,
because what I was originally having issues with was something mental. It wasn't from the system that you have constructed over the course
mm,
of time you did being flawed in some way. It was
mhm,
me not following the rules based on uh, a mental and emotional aspect of myself that it kind of laid bare.
mm,
So, I took personal responsibility for that, went through the process, and came out the other side with a deeper understanding of myself and my capacity to overcome an obstacle that I never really had to look at so intimately
mm,
before. So it was interesting that it ostensibly came out of left field to take that hard look through something like trading. So you
mhm,
could say I was surprised and that I didn't expect it to be kind of this um, self-evaluation on a deeper personal level. And
mhm,
but I mean it was something once I realized it, I I took it on
mhm.
um, and came out the other side with success,
Yeah,
being a more successful trader and
yeah.
uh, understanding, I guess you could say, like the shadow side a little bit more
Mhm,
of myself and
mhm,
how with the right intention
mhm,
um, and work ethic, perseverance,
mhm,
openness, we can overcome that and be successful in just about anything. Like I never would have thought that I would be doing anything like this in my life and that I would actually enjoy it, sitting and looking at a computer screen, clicking a
yeah.
button when conditions are right. I've always been more of
Mhm,
a person. I want to use my hands. I want to be
mhm,
outside, I want to work with people, but um I think getting to know you on a deeper level and what
mhm,
you're doing for everyone and what your intentions are for everyone coming into this, it's a
mhm,
beautiful thing. I'm really honored to be a part of it and to know you
mhm.
in the way that I do. So
Mhm. I'm honored. I'm just as honored as well. But we're not gonna cry right now because I mean I really deeply love people, and I love people who are honest with themselves, because that's the only way, being a pastor and a coach and a teacher, with goals and people having goals in their lives and students having goals, you cannot reach those goals without being honest, with yourself. And I really respect people who do that. So a lot of times people tell me, "Hey, listen, I've never heard of a program like yours. Like we have a teacher, we have a freshman teacher and a sophomore teacher and a junior teacher. Now you're the senior teacher that we'll talk about later on. But um, so was this more structured than you expected? Or, I've heard horror stories about people getting some slides and some a PowerPoint, and like you got to try to learn that, and then people telling you, well, sometimes this works and sometimes this works and you have to just choose. Well, that's no guidance, sometimes anything can work, so is this a little more structured than you thought it would be?
when I first got into it, I didn't know. I thought that it was going to be glorified pattern recognition, you
Hmm.
know, um, nothing more, nothing less. I didn't realize that it was going to be such a, again, mental and emotional kind of journey.
Mm, hmm.
The
I
things
see.
that someone goes through when suddenly you're used to winning and then suddenly you lose a trade and what happens. And I find it hard to believe that most people are able to be completely flat emotionally about that. Um, but how it comes up and what comes up is that's an individual thing. But um, so for me, the learning the rules
Mm-hmm.
was pretty pretty simple,
Mm-hmm.
quite intuitive, especially once you really start to absorb what you're seeing on the screen. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the colors, the candles, the ropes, the structures, all of that starts to, like, I don't even have to think about it anymore. You told
Yeah.
me that in the beginning. One day it's just there it
That's what
is.
mastery is. Where you can
Right.
just execute without the use of conscious resources is not like, I love it, because you get to a point where it's just like riding a bike. Unlike being an investor in stock where you have to always look at the stock and you have to always evaluate the stock and you have to always see what people are saying about the stock and all that. I just want something simple that I can just make a lot of money with. And that's what it is. So it was pretty important. How important was it that the process was laid out? Uh, the way it is. Like if you do A, B, C, and D, E is what's supposed to happen. You know what I mean? So how important was that to you?
It was important to me because I think if it was overly complicated, I know myself well enough, I probably would have lost interest pretty quick because it's not something I would have naturally resonated with.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that the way that the curriculum was laid out and the teachers that I worked with early on, like Russell and Lamar, just I enjoyed my time with them, not
Hmm.
just as an instructor, as a mentor, but as a person. They're just good people in the that you've collected, to be
Hmm.
a part of this and share this knowledge and wisdom with people. So um yeah, and I mean, and I dive into it and here I am. I still to this day I'm around between 85 and 90% wins
That's awesome.
and gains. But the big thing is, what about that 10%? What do I do? And I've realized that's the most important thing, how to handle the loss, because there is no
Hmm.
guarantee that it's going to be 100%. But I've been doing it long enough now to see the majority of the time it works in our favor. But the time that it doesn't, that's the thing to really put under the microscope for
Hmm.
for anyone that gets into this. Um,
Hmm.
and if people can do that, you know, with a with clear intention and the ability
Hmm.
to really scrutinize that facet of trading, I don't see how
Hmm.
anyone can't be successful in this.
Yeah. And I think it kind of goes back to what you were talking about with the management. At the end of the day, the only reason you will lose a trade is if someone in some office or some firm or some bank did something that they don't normally do. But people are creatures of habit, and typically they people go to work the same way. They fly the same airline. They try to get the same seat. I mean, that's people are creatures of habit, and that's all that's happening. So when we understand the mindset of the market makers, which are institutional traders, we know that when this happens, this is normally how they operate. Now, when they don't operate that way because of some kind of outside interference, geopolitical war, what have you, well, now the management is, hey, listen, that 3%, that's all I want to lose. So I just can't over leverage. I have to calculate what the loss would be. You have to count up the cost, Jesus said, prior to even starting an endeavor. And that's what, and as long as you do that, I think greed is the only thing that can hurt you once you know. Now, but a lot of people don't know, which leads me to ask you this question. Now that you know what you know, and now that you're making money, what would have happened? if what do you think would have happened if you had tried to piece this together by yourself?
I I couldn't have, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, yeah,
Nothing more, nothing less. I just wouldn't have done it. I
yeah,
probably would have looked at it, to be blunt, like gambling, and I don't gamble.
right, right. So what's the difference, would you say, because with us, what is the difference between guessing and having a system?
Peace of mind.
Hmm, hmm. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I accept there's many things in life that I can't control, but armed with the knowledge that we are throughout this program,
Hmm.
I I feel quite comfortable with the risk that we take every time we push that button, and that we are putting our hard-earned money into a kind of an abstract thing in a way, you know. And what I mean when I say that is, if I go and work on someone who's injured their shoulder, and I put my hands on them and I do friction work on a torn tendon, and within a
Hmm.
couple weeks that tendon has mended itself, I see a physical representation of the work I've done play out and improve the quality of someone's life. This to me felt like so abstract, you know. It's like there's this thing moving on a screen, and suddenly I click a button and it's like, oh, I just got $500. So
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
almost kind of hard to wrap my mind around. Is this real? Like
yeah.
when I first did it, but now that I've acquiesced, um, yeah, it's pretty amazing. You know,
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
and as a husband too, I mean, I it gives, I guess, to a degree, a sense of uh, peace of mind in knowing that I'm able to support my family and
yeah.
help out. So
That's
that's a part of this for me too. It's really not just for, you know, indulgences or more
hmm,
materialistic lifestyle, you know, like
hmm.
I would like to, as you always say, to, you know, help those in need or future generations, leave something to your progeny. And
That's
um,
right.
that's a big motivation for me as well. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I
That's right.
still get to do what I love. You know, I still go
Yeah.
out and massage people, but I love the notion that I can do it for the love of it, not for the economic necessity just to pay the
Wow,
bill. I notice a
man.
lot of people, they love what they love and then they get burnt out on it based on the
Yeah.
necessities of the type of economic system that they're living in, or the medical disaster they had, or the car wreck they didn't
Hmm.
anticipate, or anything like that. So I feel like it alleviates a certain degree of stress with me
Mm.
about, you know, what if my hands fall off, kind of thing, you
That's
know.
right. That's
Mm.
right. That's right. And as a business owner, I tell business owners too that you can take your own self public. One of the reasons that big businesses don't panic when there's geopolitical interruptions, and they don't panic when things slow down, is because they have an influx of money that's coming in from investors. So they're not their income and their employees' income per se is not based on sales. It's not based on revenue coming in from the business itself. So they can handle a lull. They can handle 2 weeks of no customers. They can handle because they don't have to fire anybody because the money is coming in from the investors, you know. And I liken that to what we do. If you own a business and you're a business owner, like this only takes an hour and a half most days. Now we stayed in there a little bit longer today because there's some FOMC meetings and the federal government is going to make some announcements, and sometimes that causes institutional traders to kind of pull back and hold back on the volume. We still made money, you know, but it took us a while. I think it took us an hour and a half. But see, that's a long day. An hour and a half is a long day versus 10, 12 hours long days, you know. And so you could take yourself public by now. You can be the source of income. You can be the generator of income and not depend on employees showing up and not depend on things going well. You know, just think about COVID. You know, those people who It was tough. But if you were a trader, it was nothing. It was just a normal day because the market continues to move, and things continue to happen. Like we traded right through it. When the bubble burst in 2008, 2009, if you're a trader, it doesn't matter. And trading is nothing special. It's just really you're an investor. So there are three things you can be: a consumer, uh, in the market. You can be a producer in the market, like you, business owners, and then you can be an investor. And trading is just investing. You're just doing it yourself. But I don't, I mean, it allows you multiple streams of income because just think about it. You now could teach people how to trade. You now can go and do seminars and just talk about, hey, there's other avenues that you can take and you can help people. And when people talk to you about problems, you can refer them somewhere. So it's just so rewarding. Do you remember your first win? Tell me about that. How did that feel? Did you jump up and fist pump? What did you do after your first win? And I'm talking about the first win where you knew you had it. See, I'm not talking about that first win because anybody can, my little daughter, 5 years old, can hit the button and win one. I'm talking about when I hit that button with full confidence, and I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I had an 85 to 90% chance of this working out. And when it works out, I'm gonna earn 500, I'm gonna earn 1,000, or what have you. Tell me about that day and that win.
I'm not sure if I can pinpoint a specific moment that it happened. I would say
Hmm.
it moved in kind of like a tide. It was steady,
Hmm.
where it was like, okay, 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 um, little by little, and so it it happened almost via osmosis. It just
Hmm.
permeated through this membrane to from uh, having little to no confidence,
Yeah.
a lot of anxious sentiments when I push the button to just like what's going to happen is what's going to happen, but I know most of the time it happens. So
That's
I
awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, it wasn't just this like bing moment. It was it just kind of seeped its way into this pretty high degree of comfort when I'm in the market,
Hmm.
and especially because I know how to manage my trades now.
Wow.
I know short of like some terrible disaster glitch or
Yeah.
something, there's no concern that I have with, and sometimes when you say this is your stop, I'm not going to take that trade.
Hmm.
Doesn't fit doesn't fit the system that I know works for me. So
That's
that's one
awesome.
of the shortcomings people might or may not experience when they
Hmm.
get in. It's the fear of
Hmm.
missing out.
Yeah.
Um,
When
that
you
wasn't a problem
overcome that,
for me.
that's amazing. That's
Yeah, that
amazing when you can.
specifically.
Yeah.
Mhm. I didn't have a problem with that part of it. Mine was a little different. Mine was more of like the fear of failure. So when a trade was losing, going against me, I had a hard time accepting that it was actually time to get out.
Hmm.
Um, so that was my Achilles heel that I had to focus on, but for someone else, that might not be an issue at all.
Hmm.
Um, so once I got past that and I gradually started just managing, hey, I lost, I managed it well. I know that the next one, the next one, the next one's probably going to win. And I
Right.
mean, I've seen nothing, no aberration yet to a strong
Yeah.
degree that contradicts that. It does
Yeah.
work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I honestly now, like, I really can't remember the last loss. You know what I'm saying? Like we win so much that we have to scratch our heads like, okay, well, when did we, lose? And typically, like you say, it's something that like a war happened, and it's something. And then if you notice, it doesn't take us long to adjust to that. Like, okay, the average true range or the volatility is like this now. Stops need to go here instead of here now, because of which means if you increase where the stop goes, which is the amount that you're going to lose, then you have to decrease the amount that you're trading. That's the offset. So now I can still take the trade with the same amount of risk and still make money. It's like like this was not taught to us, and I can see why, because I mean if it was, I don't maybe there may not be anybody to dig ditches and build bridges and carry boxes and fix cars. I don't know, but because this is like this is amazing. Let me ask you this: what has this done for in terms of what does this skill mean to your future family? Because you're going to have a kid or two. Your lifestyle, your freedom. You mentioned that you're about to go to Japan and just hang out, and you don't know when you're coming back or if you're coming back. Like that, that has to be an amazing feeling. So, what has this skill done? What does it mean to you, to your wife, to your future family, your lifestyle, and your freedom?
Most importantly is a balanced life.
Mm,
I know most of the people that have children are that are working class heroes.
hmm
Nothing against that, but I've always had a sensitivity to that. I've observed it
hmm
closely in that it's seen, and I mean, I know there's statistics around this. I think like a married man, the average amount of time he spends with his children
mm,
a day, I think it's what, like 30 minutes of quality time,
yeah,
like people that work the 9 to 5 kind of lifestyle and they come home and
yeah.
they're tired. And I think that's a facet of modern civilization. I don't think people used to be that way. Like
Mm,
maybe you go back
mm,
pre-industrial revolution where the man was home and he was with his kids and they were part of a community. And I've, since I do a lot of homesteading and farm type work and I'm in those type of communities, I see that people appear to be healthier mentally,
mm,
emotionally. And so I've always valued that. And so I've had this question in my mind always
mm,
like how can I have a life where I'm not where I can be a part of my child's life and not be
mm,
away working all the time, you
mm,
know, have to leave the home. And so that was one of my appeals to doing things like farming, but also now with trading as a way that I can, you know, again, just have a balanced life and
mhm,
be, I would like to be around my child and my family more than I'm out working, or have my work be a part of the family and engaged in that and
mhm,
teach those kind of skills to my children. Like I've got a good friend of mine that does a lot of farm work and his son is always with him
mm,
doing the work together and he's just a toddler. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So
yeah,
that's an ambition and a dream of mine and doing the trading in this way. Like you said, the long day for us is the hour and a half. There's
yeah. That's overtime.
it's quite a liberating thing,
Hmm
with the thought that I can spend more time, engaged in my family and bringing up children and be a big
hmm
part of it rather than a small part of it because of the way the modern world works.
Yeah. And speaking of the modern world, that leads me to ask you this: do you feel like you stepped into a different level of life now? From the level that you were in, I guess moving from being a consumer and a producer, because you do have your own business, now to an investor. Do you think that you have leveled up in life?
I think I've definitely started a new chapter
Hmm
in my life, and in terms of um, leveling up, I have gained a much more adept financial literacy
hmm
that came from this. So in that regard, yes. And also that I think I've expanded immensely the amount of prospects that I see and confidence I have in things that I can do, you know, with money, like what how I can use it as a tool. Before that, it just didn't interest me that much. I was always more, you know, just do your job, do it good, and what
Hmm.
may come. And so I'd say leveling up in terms of having more focus,
Hmm.
more sense of purpose with using thinking of money as a tool, and
Hmm.
it's a tool I can use to um, like build something meaningful with the life I have here. You know, just
Yeah,
and it simply put, it's there's more options now that's
man,
associated with that.
that's
I want to
awesome.
use it for good. I want to, you know, like I feel like what else am I here for? You know, to um, try to build something that has a positive influence on myself, my family, and my community. So for me, again, that attraction has always been towards, I guess, working more with the creation, working um, with nature. So that's my avenue. I guess it's different for
Mhm.
everyone, but the the trading has given me a sense that like it can be achieved now,
Hmm.
even with the property prices going through the roof. Like it can
Yeah,
happen.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Let me as we wrap up, and I really appreciate your time. Let me ask you a couple more questions. What would you say to someone who's looking at this and they're thinking, yeah, I hear what they're saying, but I'm looking at these screens and I don't think I can do that. What would you say to that person, knowing that they're at this fork of the road where they can step into a new life, level up, get more options, or continue to do the same thing, which is stay in a place where you need permission to make money. Basically, that's what when you're asking for a job, you're asking them to give you permission to make money. You know, what would you say to that person? I can't do that. I didn't make A's in school, and I'm not good at math, and I can't do that. What would you say to
It's cliche, but if I can do it, I think anyone can.
them?
But there are I would say stereotypes associated with that
Mm,
people have to get over, and I we've talked about this at length,
mhm,
that it's a delicate delivery that's required, I think, to
mhm,
get people past this a knee-jerk reaction to
mhm,
trading, day
mhm,
trading. Because I had to,
mhm,
I knew nothing about it, but I had already been planted with that mind
mhm,
virus of like, oh, it's a scam, or it's
mhm,
you lose all your money, and um, so it required someone that I trusted to ease me mentally into this, and I had such a good first conversation with you that I felt it felt I guess comfortable. It's a word,
mhm,
best word to use. Um, but in terms of people experiencing, economic stagnation, uh, at this point in time, I can, which is why I'm here talking to you. The proof is in the pudding now. I
yeah,
can now show people. I don't have to just say, I think this is good. I can give them hard evidence
mhm,
that it is good, and that,
mhm,
just a guy that does, sports massage therapy
mhm,
has stepped into an alien world and manifested something,
mhm.
tangible out of it. And if I can do that, I think anyone can, if they have the capacity, again, to take a good hard look in the mirror at whatever mental and emotional facets of trading might be challenging.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. If you had to by percentage. If you had to say, if you had to say, if you had two things and you say, how do I want to ask this? Luck or process. What what percentage of your success has been luck and what percentage has been process and discipline? Because some people may look at this and say, well, he's just lucky. He had a good run. What percentage would you say my success, this percentage is luck, and this percentage of my success